Ah, hello, ladies and gents. It is time for the final part 3 of the most casual daily in the world, Day 9 Daily number 335. We are looking at oGsMC versus Fnatic Sen in a half and half, where we have just got done looking at the oGsMC half of it. Let's look at the Sen half of it, and then let's take your questions! It's going to be good, but first and foremost, what I want to do is grab some questions people had, some things to look at from the Zerg point of view. Do you think the Zerg player's passivity was due to a lack of creep? That's a question from Neutrino, which is an interesting point. We actually didn't really see that much. We didn't actually see that much creep spread. That's actually very surprising to me. So Friends Elitis says, does the teddy bear have a name on the bookshelf? Yes, that's Tomo, the sphere bear. What else are people wondering? How does Zerg deal with both ground and air at the same time, but keep on the aggression from Flipstick? We'll look at that. Yeah. What other things from Zerg? See if any more good notes. People are still asking about Protoss. Alright, here we go. From Quay, as Zerg, when you see your opponent go Blink Stalker, Colossi, the appropriate response Neuroparasite, and much more Infestors, or to go more Corruptors, a ground-based army. We'll take a look at that as it comes in. Let us divine. Ling Infestor is a solid unit composition, but what are indicators when you should switch out of it? From Benzen Sulfonic. Let us jump into the game, jump into the game, jump into the game. One thing that I want to note right off the bat about Zergling and Infestors, I think it's a good style. Destiny has popularized quite a bit, but I do think that one thing that many people are sort of neglecting in their analysis of the Zergling Infestors are the fact that you don't have to get them really fast. You can focus on economy, do all the usual Ling Roach defenses, and then just eventually get a whole bunch of Infestors, which I think is something that Sen does pretty well, but I also think Sen sort of lacks some of the aggressive flair of a lot of other folk. So there's the very delayed gas. We see the hatchery. When we see the two assimilators go down, Fnatic Sen, I think, cannot cross anything off his list, really. He's basically crossing off cannon rushes and hyper aggro 4 gates along the vein of what Choya would do. Because Choya would just, like, totally sit on his ass and go 1 gash, 4 gate, and good stuff. So when we see a 1 gate expand like this, I think it's fairly safe to assume that you are in the gold in terms of defense for maybe the next 2.5 minutes. Around the 8-minute 30 mark is around the time when a lot of 5-gate pushes will begin to get their Gitchy going. So I'm really feeling comfortable as a Zerg player cutting on a thing. Thing is probably not the best word for it. A spine crawler. There we go. Evolution Chamber. Does doff finish. So this technique by Sen, I think, is one of the big reasons why Zergling speed is really important. We're getting a count. What is hearing this? Oh my god, what is with this? How can I not... You do jumping jacks after this. Popping back to the... No, not to that one. Man. Brain. We see the really early evolution chamber, like right after we see this expand incoming. It's just an insta evo, and we see a third come up eventually. The Roach Warren to me seems like a defensive precaution. We've seen nothing as Zerg at this point. We're gonna get a round of Zerglings. This to me is really interesting. This seems like a little bit of timing here. Notice that these Zerglings are popping up right before 8 minutes. Just to get another little count. These are big indicators that aggression is not going to be coming by ground. Like, really big. Anytime someone is doing like a 5 warp gate or a lot of times a 6 warp gate, they will not be getting those 2 geysers that early. The 2 geysers actually interrupt the flow of the warp gate pushes by quite a lot. There still are some later warp gate pushes, but I mean, I'm going to be crossing off like the ultra aggro 5 warp gate sort of stuff. So that's actually pretty damn good. And we see a 5th hatchery incoming. That's actually an interesting little twist in my eyes. We see a 3rd queen pop out right now. This hatch, I think, actually went down blind. I think he just straight up planted that 3rd hatch like it was nothing. I'm slowly starting to appreciate this timing more and more. As we can see, this Zergling timing will finish right around the time a big scary Warp Gate push will be coming, because we got it so early. And again, if you want to download this replay and copy the timing exactly, just look for the NASL Finals replay pack and you can just get it right there. But it's interesting to me that he just did this blind. Now, what would encourage him to do this upon seeing these delayed Warp Gates? Let's find out the exact time when this happened. When did this happen? When did this frickin' hatch happen? Let's see. Hatch number 1, and is hatch number 2 coming up? It looks like, yeah, wow. Sen just straight up got it as a response to this early expand. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, he checked these, but it already had his hatchery going. So this is just a blind build. This is just him building a lot of drones, managing his economy well, and relying just on queens, spore crawlers, creep, and the upgrades gain from this Evo chamber. Now, what is most impressive to me and most exciting to me about this moment in gameplay is that look at how Sen defended this. He got his 3 queens up, 1 for his main, 1 for his natural, and then he built a 3rd, obviously to waltz it all the way over to here. When this evolution chamber was finished, Sen built only 1 spore crawler here. Only upon seeing the attack are we seeing more spore crawlers. I think that's really important to note, because often what you'll see players do is kind of fall into a zone where they say, alright, is he going air, yes or no? If yes, 1 spore at each base. If no, then no spores at any bases. But it's cool to see players exploring the granularity here. To say, well, what if I built 1 spore crawler at a base, and then just did a lot of repositioning if the time came? That, to me, is very smart. You'll see a lot of really good players do this, where Terran players used to build 4 turrets, 2 in the main, 2 at the natural. You'll see some players just build 2 in the main and be better about managing their natural expansion. And suddenly, they have enough money to build an extra, they have enough money to do something like build an extra barracks or so. So now, all of a sudden, from Sen's point of view, getting all these extra spore crawlers makes a ton of sense. And look at this. 1 in the main, 3 at the 3rd, and then just 4 queens in the middle. Again, not doing this 2 at each base mindset. He's actually cutting quite a bit. I think that's how this hatch just kind of came out of nowhere from Sen's point of view. Well, hell, if I don't have to make these spores early on, I can just sort of avoid all this. And he does have the 6 queens up. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, that's great. We can see that, in a sense, Sen is doing something kind of similar to the reverse of MC's logic. MC is saying, I'm going to build a whole bunch of air units and slack up on the ground, because I can easily defend any attack with my Void Rays. So I don't really need that many ground units. Likewise, what Sen is saying is, man, there's a big set of scary threats from the air, but there's just not that going to be, there's not really going to be that much on the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build nothing but drones and queens for a while. Look at this. I'm already at 67 drones. Defending with these queens. And I would say, though, there does need to be a little bit more creep spread with those queens. I might be over trying to do the creep spreading. However, it seems really, really important if we want to secure extra expansions to be able to use our spore crawlers. That seems really essential. Also, we do see the Baneling nest popping up right when our lair finishes. We do see the second Evo chamber. So it does look like a usual Zergling infester. We see the drops going up. I would probably not be getting the Ventral Sack quite so early unless I was intending on doing some kind of very fast Ling drop. The Baneling drop, you can't actually just get it that fast. And interestingly, this is a moment where I think all Zergs are going to be like, I should have had that spotter up at the north way earlier. This build, though, from Sen is kick-ass, man. This just kicks the hell out of some ass. So at this point in time, we even see the Colossi coming out. I mean, Sen actually does not have too much goody goodness en route, but he is going to have plenty of infestors. Yeah, man, I really feel like Sen could have won this game. And maybe even should have won this game. Oh, transfusing too early. Oh, what a freaking tragedy. God, this 4-color burrow here was so clutch. What a clutch-ass Taiwanese guy. So one thing that's nice about this style is just to describe it. This is a blend of the Destiny style of Zerg and the Maro style of Zerg. In Maro's style, it's all about the Ling Bane Ling, and eventually some infestors kind of mix in. In the Destiny style, let's get a total ridiculous amount of infestors up in there, and then let's start really doing some heavy hurting to them. Here we're getting the infestors first, and then we're sort of moving into the Baneling style, but I think it's important that if you're going to do that, that you embrace both of them. If you're doing the Destiny style, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting the Burrow upgrade, delaying the Overlord drop upgrade, and instead getting Burrow. That will let your infestors do some cool damage. That will even let you Burrow up here, controlling this Expo, and force him to have observers, or at the very least cannons. The +2, the fact that it's coming pretty quickly, I think is essential, because then you can do the Baneling drops very effectively. But it's kind of significant to note that Zerg is not really seeing that much, and is not really getting to see what the opponent is doing to a large extent. Like, oh my god, we didn't even see the Protoss, we just saw a bunch of lasers come out of mist. And I might have all I want to say about the Zerg aspect done here. I mean, there does come a point where, yeah, you know what? If you have that many queens out on the field, you better be spreading that creep early on, boy. Because that just came back to bite him. Yeah, I might have. You know what? Screw this, man. I'm done. Let's just take some questions and get out of here. Let's just do it. I need to go to sleep. Bedtime for day 9. Guys, let's take some questions for this daily. Most casual daily ever. We're in the middle of looking at some Zerg play. Got some good points out. Yeah. Let's see here. So here we go. So, Mastermind 987 says, Dear Day 9, should you upgrade as a Zerg player before the 3 base, during Zerg vs. Protoss, and during... it says a Myro game, which I assume means a micro game. So, to sort of rephrase this question, the question is asking about, you know, if we're getting our upgrades too early, such as before 3 base, won't we sometimes end up in a situation where we have upgrades for units, but not that many units? Or won't we end up in a situation where, you know, we might be in a big, intense micro battle, and sure, we have some plus Zerglings, but we really just wanted to have more units instead of this upgrade. So I actually think it's quite good to get the upgrade, because the upgrade is not just as simple as we want our units to be good. Does that get in the way of us having enough units? A lot of times it's, okay, so I see him expanding. He could either be going for a delayed attack, or really fast DTs, or air. So I'm going to get this evolution chamber, which will help me deal with the air, help me deal with the DTs. And in the case that he's going for the big attack, you know what, I'll get my upgrade in that circumstance as well, so that will help a bit. So I feel like the timing on that evolution chamber may have looked early, but was actually quite good, and I'm really digging it. I really, really, really dig it. Let's see here. Let us see here. So, Osa the Confused says, Dear Day 9, I've been recently attempting to learn Zergling Infestor instead of my normal Roach Infestor. Sen was very passive. Do you believe that Sen lacked abuse of mobility his army brought? I feel like Sen would have liked to trade armies. So I'm a little torn on this. Here's half of my response. That Sen was essentially forced into passivity by the fact that his opponent was getting this huge air force. It kind of implies that you're going to need to have really good anti-air before you move out to attack, which might mean you don't have very good anti-ground. That said, Sen, I think, did the smart thing and said, well, if I'm going to have to be kind of passive, I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to be mega passive. I'm going to get 4 hatches and a fast 4th. He should have been spreading creep a lot. Creep is an extremely good counter to air. Especially if you see where his Mutalisks are, or his Phoenixes and Void Rays are. Run Zerglings around, spot where his air units are, and just spread creep wherever they're not. A lot of times you'll see Terrans do this. Aha, Mutalists are harassing my main. I'm going to drop his third base because my main is very far away from his third base. Same thing with creep, because if your creep is spread out a lot, what is he going to do? Go for air, build a lot of air units, and then get a robo for an observer, and then get a lot of ground units, and get a third. I mean, it's just he's doing too much. In this game, you saw that our Protoss buddy struggled to both build air and get a third. He couldn't really even get units in there, let alone tech to a robotics facility and get a whole bunch of observers to scour the map with a unit base. So oGsMC can only do some of those. So yeah, I feel like spreading that creep can be helpful. But what Zergy did that I liked is he just embraced passivity. Thought of, okay, well, if I can't attack, what does that mean? Well, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of upgrades and get all this good stuff going. I really do feel, though, that Burrow could have been very, very helpful here. Doing some Burrow harass, maybe being a little more active with those Zerglings. I just don't want anyone to have these in connotations with these words. I want you just to use the word as a tool, but not to believe in the value of it. So, for instance, aggressive. People have a positive connotation with that. Ooh, he's an aggressive player. Not only does it sound stylistically fun and interesting, but it also implies that you're doing damage to your opponent and you're being, and then people have, ooh, over-aggressive and that sort of thing as being the bad version of that. There are a lot of circumstances in which passive is the correct way to play. And there are some amazing passive players. If you watch oGsMC, he is passive as hell. But in all his time just sitting on his ass, you're constantly thinking, oh, God, when that push comes, it's going to be huge. Oh, and it's really, really, really stressful. So don't be scared to be passive is, I guess, another thing I would throw out there. One last question. From Zareizona. Dear Day 9, do you think Sen could have been more aggressive if he had made either Hydras or Mutas? I think these are possible. There comes these points of divergence, though, where you're saying, okay, I'm either going to go down the Infestor route, or I'm going to go down the Muta route, or I'm going to go down the Hydra route. So that, I think, was in large part some of the reasoning behind it, but also my gut tells me, and of course I'd have to test this. I'm not actually sure how sure I believe with what I'm about to say. I feel as though if you just got the Hydras really, really fast after the 3 bases, that the attack may not have worked out so well. I do, or because he would have had, his third would have been up, but then he also would have had the Colossi out. I mean, you saw that the way MC played was build air units, get third, get Robo and Colossi, and then let's go back to building some ground units. The Robo and Colossi were right on the heels of that third base. I mean, he got that lightning fast. So I feel like Hydras would really struggle against that. Also, if you're trying to run away, the Phoenixes are just going to F you up. I will say, though, if you were on 2 bases and you got a very fast layer, very fast Zergling Hydralisk can crush. For reference games, watch Nesty versus... Who on earth was that Protoss? I can't believe I don't know this. It's from the GSL semifinals or finals a few back, where he just crushed it. Where is it? Okay, I'm actually going to look this up on the Team Liquid Pro Gamer database. Nesty SC2 Korea search. I'm going to give you this damn reference. Damn it. I think he did it to Inca, but I feel like there was another tournament in which he did really, really well on that. Let me view his ZVP games. Versus any pro. That's the series where I really liked that. Any pro did some really cool things with that. Definitely go watch up Nesty versus Any Pro and Nesty versus Inca. Those are some, in especially the Any Pro games, there's some stunning examples of just punishing a player if he's on 2 bases, going for air, and you're on 2 bases as Zerg. Hey! I finished that with a good reference. And in other news, this is just mind-blowing to me. Alright, so here's Nesty's overall record. 80-30. That's a 72% win rate. He's 38 and 25 versus Terran, so he has a 60% win rate. He's 22 and 2 versus Zerg. Seems pretty good. And he is 20 and 3 versus Protoss. That's almost a 90% win rate. So good. For Fun Day Monday, please submit to me a game of you lifting up your starting command center and floating it elsewhere on the map, and then beginning the game. Submit that to Monday at day9.tv. This weekend, nothing is going on, but next week, the North American Blizzard Invitational will be occurring. You should tune in. And I even do believe that the Europe regionals, the Blizzard Europe regionals, should be coming up soon. I know that Mr. Bitter, Rotterdam, Joe from ESL, and Zoe from Game Sports are doing the commentary there. So yeah, check it out. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go to sleep. I've done my deeds, you guys. You're all very pretty. I'm out. Peace. Hearts and hearts.